Welcome, Mr. Witness. What is your religion? What language do you wish to make your testimony? Do you wish to swear or make an affirmation? Madam Chair, the witness wishes to swear on the Bible through affirmation. You repeat after me. For affirmation, you raise your hand. Yes, and you repeat after me. I, David Gomez, do swear or do affirm that I will speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Madam Chair, the witness is sworn. He may sit down.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Welcome, Mr. Gomez. And I would now like to call on counsel, the counsel, to take through the witness. Thank you.
Please state your names for the record. And where do you live?
I live in Sumakunda.
What is your occupation?
I am a civil servant.
Mr. Gomez, you gave a statement to the investigators, is that correct?
Yes.
And you prepared the statement yourself?
Certainly.
And do you adopt the statement as part of your evidence before this commission?
Yes, I do.
Actually, let me show you the statement. Is that the statement, and do you adopt it?
Yes.
And there's a document attached to the statement. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Madam Chair, I applied to tender the statement of the witness that has been provided and adopted.
Okay. Very well, counsel. The statement of Mr. David Gomez is hereby admitted in evidence and marked as LGC/DG001 together with the exhibit, together with the attachment.
As a commission, please.
Counsel, you can proceed.
Mr. Gomez, where do you work?
I work with the Ministry for Lands, Regional Government and Religious Affairs.
And what is your designation of the Ministry of Lands?
My designation is Director of Governance.
And how long have you held this position?
Nearly 2 years.
Nearly 2 years.
Yeah.
And prior to that, were you still with the ministry?
Yes, I was.
Since when?
Wow. I'm not the best with dates, but...
just roughly, like which year?
I'm not sure that 20... I don't actually want to guess, but I served as Senior Decentralization Officer, from where I proceeded to become the Principal Decentralization Officer. From there, I became the Assistant Director, and then to the current position I hold.
Okay. Can you give us a brief summary of your educational background?
I attended primary school, then to high school, college, and then university.
Okay, and what did you study at university?
I studied both undergrad and postgrad.
I know.
That is a bachelor's and master's.
In what?
Geography.
And have you always worked at the ministry, or did you work somewhere else prior to the ministry?
Yeah, I worked somewhere else prior to the ministry.
Where was that?
As a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
As Director of Governance at the Ministry of Lands, what are your roles or functions?
Formulates, coordinates the implementation of policies and strategies on decentralization and local governance. Equally responsible for professional conduct, supervision, staff development, and training. I'm also responsible for the monitoring of the implementation of the Local Government Act. Equally collaborate with stakeholders to ensure that we regulate the local governance and decentralization standards, and also ensure the proper utilization of resources, amongst others.
So you do all of this on behalf of the Ministry of Lands, correct?
Yes.
And you're essentially responsible for the supervision of the area councils?
Yes.
Okay. And have you only worked with the area councils in respect of this particular position as Director of Governance?
No, not entirely area councils. I work with the governors as well as the local authorities.
By local authorities, you mean?
I mean the chiefs, the alcalde.
Okay. Institutions or offices that are under you?
No.
Okay. So what are the different offices in your department, in your directorate? There's your position, which is director. Do you have an assistant director?
Yes.
Who else works in?
Decentralization officers.
Okay. Are you familiar with the decentralization policy of the government?
Yes.
Did you work on the formulation of the policy at any point?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us when this was?
The current decentralization policy is 2015 to 2024. A consultant was hired by UNDP to spearhead the process of consultations with relevant stakeholders, leading to coming into force or coming into being of the decentralization policy.
Okay, you have said that the current decentralization policy is 2015 to 2024.
Yes.
Was there one before this?
think there was one way back in 2007.
And were you in any way a part of that?
No, not necessarily.
But during your time at the ministry, did you have cause to either work with the policy, the previous policy?
Not at all.
Okay. Now, can you tell us what the government's intention when it comes to decentralization is? Maybe talk us through the policy.
Yes, the government of the Gambia, like other countries around Africa, decided to embrace decentralization as a way of bringing about development to the grassroots of this country. So way back in the late 80s leading to the early 90s, consultation took place with various stakeholders, both national and international, and in particular the UN agencies. And this was followed by a report that was commissioned by the UNDP. And in the report actually tried to recommend to government to adopt decentralization as its blueprint on national development.
Okay. So
unfortunately, or fortunately, that was during the First Republic. Then there was a change of government shortly after that. Just briefly after that, then change of government. Unfortunately, the new incoming government also embraced decentralization as a national policy and strategy in its development aspirations. Again, when the new constitution, that is the 1997 constitution, came into being, it also embraced decentralization as a way forward to bring about development at the grassroots level. It should be recalled there was international support or donor support, but along the line, this support dwindled. The momentum was lost, but again, it was regained as a result of the coming into being of the 1997 Constitution, which actually paved the way for decentralization in the Gambia. And that brought about the creation of certain legal frameworks, such as the Local Government Act 0204, the service rules, Scheme of Service Rules 2003, the Local Government Finance and Accounting Manual 09, etc. All these were geared towards paving the way or creating the passage to the decentralization process that Gambians envisage for themselves.
So can you tell us what you understand by decentralization?
Yeah, basically it is the transfer of authority or transfer of certain central government functions to local authorities.
And the current decentralization policy of the Gambia, what was the Gambia's vision of decentralization? Because I believe there are different forms of decentralization.
Yes, the government's vision is to decentralize by devolution. Decentralization by devolution. Because there are so many forms or types of decentralization, and it will be inappropriate for government to want to take them all on board at the same time. So it was fitting and appropriate that government does so gradually. And government decided to go in for decentralization by devolution, whereby certain government central government functions are devolved to the local authorities.
So when you say devolved, you mean that they are completely passed on from central government to the local government councils?
Yes, that's what it's supposed to be, that's right.
And the decentralization plan was supposed to be carried out in 2 phases, is that correct?
Yes.
The first phase from 2015 to 2019, and the second one 2020 to 2024.
Yes.
Can you tell us how far the government has gone in respect of the first phase, at least?
Yeah, decentralization in itself is very slow. As we all know, it is a costly process. as we speak, only a few ministries are able to decentralize to some degree. And these basically are Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Health. Principally, these ones have started some process of decentralization from the center to the periphery.
And can you take us through the Ministry of Education? How have they devolved their powers, and which powers have they devolved to the local authorities?
They have established directorates in all the regions of this country. And all these offices are headed by directors and other senior officials. But again, there are certain decisions that should have been taken by central government, but are now devolved at that level on behalf of central government. For example, certain recruitments of teachers, like untrained teachers, could be done at the level of the regions instead of the central government handling it. Most especially the untrained teachers and the contract teachers.
Okay. And so is that the only part of it? What do the directorates at the regions do? What is their function other than the employment of teachers?
Yeah, they supervise and monitor all that aspect to do with education at their respective regions.
So what about the Ministry of Agriculture? Tell us about that. Their decentralization process and health afterwards.
Okay. Yeah, both of them are actually decentralized to some level, as just like MOPSI, if you go to the regions, they have regional agricultural directorates, regional health directorates, all headed by directorates. So some central government policies are devolved to them so that they deal with them at their level, at the level of the regions.
And do you think that those have been effective?
Yes, it depends on the yard of measurement that one may use. Some may say yes, some may argue inadequate. But of course, there is some degree of success in their interventions.
So maybe take us through what you think is or has been successful and what has been inadequate.
Yes, if you look at each of these directories, they deal directly with the local people. They are closer to the grassroots compared to the central, and they have that reach or outreach with the communities. They have that contact or first-hand contact with the communities. For example, MOPSI, they must make sure, or they make sure that there is access to education. Not only access, but also an equally affordability. Staff recruitment and retention was a near success. I know it is still a challenge because human beings, by virtue of our nature, we pursue greener pastures. I know MOPSI will agree that it is still a challenge, but they are making some progress or headway in that direction.
So, as the Directorate of Governance, what is your relationship between the central government and the local councils?
Yes, central government, when they have policies, our role is to ensure that these policies are well looked after at the level of the councils. And whatever they do or they try to do, we make sure it is aligned to government policies and programs.
So how do you educate the councils on central government's policies?
Yes, we do have engagements with them. Apart from our routine inspection and monitoring, we draw their attention to this.
That's what I'm saying. How do you do it? Are the policies in document form that you make sure that the councils have? How do you ensure that they're aware of government policies and that they align with government policies?
Yes, one of which is during our budget bilaterals with them, that we conduct with them, we ensure that we keep reminding them of government policy. And that is the one factor, one reason why we have a team or a committee that monitors or looks at their budget during budget bilateral to make sure or ensure that their budgets are prepared in line with government policies and not the reverse.
So you're essentially saying there's a policy for budgeting by central government, and your job in the committee is to ensure that they follow the policy in carrying out their budget.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. Is this policy written? Is it something that you provide to the council so that they also have it when they're preparing their budget?
No.
It's not. There's no written policy for
No,
this.
no, we don't provide it.
Okay. And why? Well, what is your role in respect of the other ministries that have not, or what have you done in respect of the other ministries that have not taken steps to devolve some of their powers to the local councils?
Yes, directly we didn't, because this policy, when it was sent to cabinet has some reservations in certain areas. And unfortunately, offered, I can't remember the areas of the gray areas that they had concern with, and that's why it couldn't move forward.
When was this?
I think it's last regime, last republic.
Okay, and have any steps been taken since this republic? I mean,
No.
in respect of devolution, nothing.
No.
And this is a project that's funded, right? I mean, the devolution project is funded by international donors, was it?
No.
Who's it funded by?
No, I mean the hiring of the consultant to come up with a policy.
Okay.
That's what
Was funded.
Yes, that's what
Okay,
was
so whose responsibility is it to ensure that the policy is effected?
It's government.
And you're saying the government had reservations in respect of the policy, and that's why it's not moved forward.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you've spoken about your monitoring and inspection roles. Can you tell us more about this?
Yes, the Directorate conducts periodic inspection and monitoring of councils, where teams are sent out to the councils and conduct their routine inspections.
How often do you conduct routine inspections?
Yes, we always prefer to have it quarterly, but in certain instances they could be overtaken by events and we are not able to conduct. But we always prefer to have it on a quarterly basis.
So when you don't do it quarterly, how often do you do it? If you skip one quarter, when next do you do?
Then the next quarter, we target the next quarter.
So what informs your inspection and monitoring? Do you just go to the councils and randomly check their books? What informs your inspections?
Not necessarily. We sit as a team and come up with areas of focus during the inspection when the team is out there. So every inspection and monitoring, like if this quarter focus is on this aspect, next one will focus on something different.
Like what? If you focus, what are the aspects that you focus on generally?
Yeah, some will be maybe budgetary issues. Some will be making sure that there is in place certain institutions, for example, the procurement unit or procurement officers, the budget officer or budget unit. See, we monitor their projects, both completed, ongoing. So there's a host of different things that are monitored. The payroll.
Okay. The National Audit Office conducts annual audits on the councils, and these audit reports come to your office. Do you have any dealings with the reports when they come to the ministry?
Yes.
And what happens when you receive the reports?
We go through the report as a team or as a directorate, and then trying to identify key areas that the national audit or the audit has raised, and that is incorporated in the next inspection exercise.
And then what happens when you go on inspection and you inspect? What are the steps that you take?
Yes, we go through it with management to ensure or to remind them audit has raised this concern. What is the state of correcting it? Or what is the state of implementation? Then we move on like that. If something is not implemented, then we capture as not implemented at all, or the implementation process is ongoing. And then next audit will flag it, so that we still follow, or the team will still follow on that to ensure it is fully implemented.
Now, what are your powers when it comes to monitoring and inspection? When you flag this and you flag it for the next audit and you go back and it's not implemented, what do you do?
We bring it to the attention of my line manager.
Who's your line manager?
That's the permanent secretary.
Okay. And then what happens?
Sometimes it depends where necessary. We invite the team or the council concerned to come over, and we sit over the issue.
Are there any sanctions that the ministry carries out or meets out?
Yes, where necessary, the ministry can excuse certain functions on the council in question.
Have you? Can you identify any situation that this has happened?
Yes, for example, sometimes, let's say, if a staff either travel or underwent training somewhere, either nationally or internationally, and is paid a per diem or an allowance, cannot equally request for council to pay him or her. When these are observed, then we request for reimbursement to return back that money.
I'm not sure I understand. If a staff travels and who requests per diem?
Let's put it this way. Wherever the staff is going, whoever may have invited the council for that conference or whatever, in some cases, that institution will pay.
Yes.
Either 50%, 100% will make some payments. But a particular staff going to the conference may request the council to pay as well. So in our eyes, it's double payment, which is unacceptable. And then we call on the officer concerned to return the money to the council.
And is that the extent of the sanction?
Yes.
Do you not think that the requesting of a double payment is some form of financial malpractice?
Yeah. In a way it is. But maybe sometimes also some of them, maybe they don't know.
They don't know that they're not supposed to receive payment twice?
Twice. Maybe.
Are there any policies in respect of this, per diem?
Yes, from the Personnel Management Office.
Okay. And are these not part of the policies or documents that the staff are supposed to be informed about?
Yes.
Okay.
Normally when PMO comes with such, then we photocopy and then forward them to the councils.
So that's
to draw their attention to the whatever change or changes or new thing coming in place.
So that's my point. Do you think that it is an excuse to say that they didn't know about the policies?
Yeah, the expectation is that communication should circulate among staff. That's the expectation.
And where? Sorry, go ahead.
But there could be certain times maybe it doesn't circulate to all the staff. That can be a possibility. But the best or good practice is we always advocate ensure that all the staff are au fait with the new regulation.
And who's responsible for ensuring that at the council?
That will be the management of council.
And what happens where you have come to realize that the management has not done this? Is the management sanctioned?
I can't remember ever coming across such a situation whereby staff say this thing wasn't forwarded to us or we are not aware of this. But certainly if it happens, of course, he should be held responsible for not filtering the information down to the rest of the staff. Because the information is not for him and him personally, but is for the institution. So it should filter to the staff.
Now, there are projects that are being coordinated by the central government that involve the local councils. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us some of these projects?
Okay. If I may deviate a bit, the Local Government Act provides for the provision of 3 grants to councils. Okay. We have the conditional grant, otherwise known as grant in aid. We have the general grant, which attracts 10% of the capital budget of a council or any given council. And then we have the equalization grant.
The what grant?
Equalization.
Okay.
Sorry, can we get that again? You said
we have the general grant.
Yes.
That attracts 10% of the capital budget of any given council. For example, Masakonko, 10% their capital budget. That's general grant. We have the grant in aid, otherwise known as conditional grant. And then the third one is the equalization grant. May I proceed?
Yes, please.
When government started disbursing subvention to councils, it started with a sum of $500,000, which was $500,000.
Before you go on, when was this? Do you remember when government started giving subvention?
As I said, I'm not the best with dates.
Okay.
Unless I check.
In this instance, can you refer to your office documents and let us have that information?
Yes, I can do that.
I think he's noting it down.
Yes, before I... Now, come here. All right, okay. So some of these subventions, what we do as a government is we request councils to come up with projects. For example, the most recent one was, I think, $2 million subvention to each council. So what we did, we requested councils to come up with a project or projects that will consume that $2 million. And then a committee is put in place for such a purpose. Whereby this committee will look at their submissions. When I say their submissions, that is council submissions of these projects. and look at them whether they are realistic. In some cases, you'll even find that some councils will submit above the 20 million threshold.
20 million or 2 million?
Sorry, excuse me, 2 million.
Okay.
Will come up with projects above 2 million that has been allocated to them. So one of the questions that we ask or we pose to them, how are you going to finance the variance, the difference? See, because government is only giving you 2 million. If you come up with a project of let's say 2.2 million, the other 0.2 million, how are you going to finance it? So the committee will look at these projects that council submit, council by council, and either put a pass or a fail. If there are any abnormalities, then the committee will bring this to their attention. Because normally when the committee are looking at these projects, we invite the councils concerned so that together we look at them. And the committee will advise accordingly. If there are if it is okay, then it's given a pass mark, then the council in question will be released to go. On the other hand, if there are issues that the committee is not satisfied with, then we ask them, go back to your drawing board and do X, Y, Z, and then resubmit. So this is what we do with these government projects. So before the funds are disbursed.
In a situation where, like this 2 million, you've given an example of if the council has gone above the budget and has maybe a project for 2.2 million, and you have asked them to explain how they're going to fund the difference. The councils have other sources of revenue, right?
Yeah.
If they're able to, like 200,000, most of them should be able to come up with that amount. So is that not sufficient justification? What would make you actually, the committee, fail a council in respect of that amount?
No, the committee will only fail the council if the council cannot justify at that material point in time. But once the council are in a position to justify, the committee has no problems with that.
So have the councils been able to make use of the 2 million subvention?
Yes.
All of them?
Yeah, it was given out anyway. But I know there was one council that only submitted 500,000 instead of 2 million. So is it that they don't want the 1.5 million? Should we disburse that one other needy council? So there was a going forth and back to put that in place.
But then you still disburse the 2 million anyway?
Yeah, but no, they have to. They have to resubmit. Ensuring that the 2 million is consumed.
So under which of these grants does that fall under? Is it the conditional grant?
Conditional, yeah.
Okay.
This was conditional.
So take us through
because basically it has to be in agreement between the two parties. When I talk of the two parties, central government on the one hand and the local councils on the other. We have to agree on programs whereby the councils are going to inject these 2 million.
And
before you proceed, Council, Mr. Gomez, what
yes.
I want to ascertain is for this 2 million grant, which is a conditional grant, as you said, can you tell this commission whether the whole 8 councils were given this grant?
Yes. In total, it's 16 million that government has approved for the 8 councils. So logically, 16 million by 8 councils, that is 2 million per council.
Yes, and when was this disbursement made?
Wow.
You can provide the information.
Okay.
Yes, please provide us with the information.
Okay.
And also to a further question to that, in this circumstance, you are provided with the possible project that the council is going to use that money for.
Yeah.
Do the councils provide for you the specific projects that they are going to use this money for?
Yes.
And you have that information?
That comes from the council. Yeah. And I remember one of the advice the committee gives is to ensure that it's derived or come out from the strategic plan. Okay. We try to discourage them to just sit down like this, oh, I want to build a market. Let them go into their strategic plan and then where possible accept.
No, my question is here. Before the disbursement of this 2 million,
okay,
do they present to you a project proposal to say that this is what we are going to spend the 2 million on?
Yes, they do.
So if they do, do you have documentation for all of the councils with respect to towards this disbursement that you've done?
Yes, I'm not sure whether we have returned, like if a council is giving pass, whether we have returned it back to them or whether we kept them, I can't remember.
Can you please check and provide that information for us?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Council, you can proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Gomez?
Yes.
So the 2 million or the 2 million each that central government gives to the councils, does it come out of the funds of the local government, of the Ministry of Lands?
Yes. Basically, when as a ministry we prepare our budget for the ensuing year, we capture in the ministry's budget the subvention for council for the following year. So when it is finally approved, like the national budget is approved by the National Assembly, then when it comes to the ministry, then from the ministry to the councils.
And but you had said at some point that initially government used to give 500,000 to the councils, half a million.
Yes, that's when government started to provide subvention to councils. And like sometimes we have doyens of the local government fraternity within us, and they will vividly agree with me that when since the Local Government Act came into force way back in 2002, for so many years along the line, government didn't provide this subvention. But at some point when it started with 500,000.
So this 2 million subvention, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, I had understood you to say that recently government decided to grant give a 2 million subvention to the councils based on if they have projects. The 500,000, was it fixed every year automatically?
No, that was the starting.
Okay.
And the year it started with 500,000, that's 500,000. If I don't forget, the following year it was raised to either 1 million or 1.5. Thereabout.
Okay.
But for last year 2022 and this year 2023 is 2 million.
Okay. Commissioner Joyner has a question for you.
Thank you very much, Lead Counsel. Mr. Gomez.
Yes, Commissioner.
I just want to understand this grant in aid, which is conditional. There has been talk about the government not fulfilling their percentage for projects or for the 60-40, whereby the councils will use 60% of their revenue for recurrent cost or whatever, and the 40% will be for development. And out of that 40%, government would spend, is it not 25%? We'll give them 25% towards that.
Yeah.
Now, I am asking this question because it's a bit confusing. You are saying a lump sum of 2 million is given.
Yes.
Now, this 2 million is not predicated by the fact that you have looked into the projects or the development projects that they want to do with the 40%. Am I right?
Yeah.
Please correct me if I am wrong.
No problem.
Okay. Now, this 2 million is what you disbursed last year and this year to the councils.
Yeah, this year is yet to be disbursed.
It's yet to be disbursed.
Yes.
Now, a question was asked to you about the documentation for the use of this 2 million. And you said you are not too sure, maybe it has been returned back to the council. Am I right?
Yeah.
Now, how would you monitor your 2 million that you have given to the council?
Yes, the committee should be able to monitor this.
Mr. Gammons, can you please clarify the 40-60? Whether the 40% is for recurrent expenditure and 60% for development, or otherwise.
Yes.
Is that the correct position? 40% is for recurrent expenditure.
Yes, but it's not being realized.
Yes, no, I just want to, for the record,
Okay.
I just want to confirm that the 40% is for recurrent expenditure and 60% is for development.
Development, yes.
Right? Yes, you can continue. Thank you.
Yeah.
The question.
Yes, I'm not sure if I've answered your questions, Commissioner. Okay, thank you.
Question is, how would you monitor your 2 million when the documents presented to you have been returned back to the council?
Yes, in as much as it's something that I'm not certain. They could be there, they could be returned. I need to verify that. But let's put it this way, in the event whereby they are returned or we are returned to councils, I need to establish whether we have photocopied them before returning them to them. Equally, if they are not photocopied, we have the database for each council.
So therefore, your monitoring is lacking. If I say I'm going to dig 5 boreholes, you've returned me my documents. After a year, you have not checked whether I have dug the 5 boreholes where I said I was going to dig it and all whatnot. How would you ascertain that the 2 million that I have given you, you have spent it towards the documentation that you had provided to earn that 2 million?
Yes, we have the means of verification for all that, except that the committee intended or planned to embark on a project visit of all these projects that councils agreed with the committee to spend on this 2 million. The committee planned to go around the country and visit these projects, but unfortunately the visit didn't take place.
Now, Mr. Gomez, this committee that you are referring to, who chairs this committee at the level of the ministry?
It's the permanent secretary.
Thank you. Can you proceed?
Thank you. Mr. Gomez, so during your site visits and monitoring exercises, which you do quarterly, and I'm assuming you do it with all the councils?
Yes.
So
sometimes we split them. Let's say this round we do A, B, and C, and next one we do the rest. But many times the team will do it simultaneously, all of them.
Yes, but I mean, you will have a team that will visit all the councils.
Yes.
And during these visits, which you say you carry out every quarter or twice in the year, I'm assuming, do you not monitor these projects that the commissioner has asked you about?
Yes, of course, project monitoring takes place.
So you would know if you went on these visits in any given year whether the projects have been completed or not?
Yes.
Okay, so if you don't know, it means that you haven't checked.
Yeah, we are checking. Sometimes it's not only visits by my department, but equally we normally have a visit to all the councils by the National Assembly Select Committee on Local Government, IEC, and the Ombudsman.
Okay.
So fortunately, I am part of that team, and then we equally monitor these projects, project by project. No matter the distance from the main road to the bush or wherever, we go and visit.
Yes, but the direct monitoring of the councils is essentially, it is your mandate. You're supposed to do that. So whether another committee does it, it doesn't take away from the fact that you're supposed to do it, and you're supposed to know that, you know, the projects have been completed or not completed or on track. Is
Yes,
that right?
we normally do it. It depends. As I started by saying, every inspection we sit together and table what and what should we look at. So if project is part of that monitoring, the team, the committee goes on the ground to see for themselves the status of implementation, completed, not completed, what are the challenges. The team goes to the ground to inspect this thing.
So
Even the next inspection, project is part of the areas that the monitoring team will be looking at.
And when you monitor, is it only these particular projects that you monitor, the ones that you have given a subvention for, or do you monitor all the council's projects for that period?
Yes, when the team goes out to monitor and projects are part of it, the team monitors all. In fact, prior to departure, we always request from councils projects for the year, let's say this year 2023, either ongoing or completed, so that the team will know that, oh, this project is at point X, this one is at point Y. We always request, and the team will have that information that will guide them during their inspection.
So when you're reviewing these projects, do you review the project documents, the contractors, etc.?
Yes, because many a times I'm not part of the monitoring or inspection team, but sometimes they do.
But your team would report back to you?
Yes.
So do they check these things? Do they check the contracts? Do they check the contractors? And where they have realized that perhaps a contract that was given to a contractor was not carried out in the right way, etc. What is your department, your directorate's role after that?
Yes, wherever it happens, we see how best to correct it. If it is not late, then we sit with them and then put it right.
Okay.
Unless we are in a situation whereby the project is already concluded.
So can you tell us, maybe give us an example of some of these projects that have been implemented, say for somewhere like Basse? Can you remember any projects that have been implemented with the subvention funds?
There's one, I don't know exactly the name of the village. When getting into URR is the first villages of URR. It's somewhere, when it's somewhere on the right, Sare something.
Sare Sophie?
Probably.
I'm learning.
We are helping the community to not to construct a first-class road, but from the main road leading to the village, gravel with a bulldozer, leveling it, etc.
Okay. And
Sorry.
And sometimes it could be bridges, like bridges linking two communities. We've also inspected those.
Yes.
But fully, I can't remember the names of the settlements.
okay,
Yes,
Chairperson has a
can
question.
sorry, Council. Can you provide for the Commission the name, because she made specific reference to Basse.
Yes.
So if there is a project and if there are documentation,
Okay.
so that we will get the proper name and what project it was, and any other information about that project. Kindly provide if it is available. Thank you. Yes, Council.
Thank you, Chair. Okay. I'm asking because we have seen some audit reports that have pointed out the deficiencies in some of the structures and other things that have been carried out by the councils. And you have said that you monitor these things. So I'm wondering, have you been to, say, the markets at Kerewan, at Mansakonko, any of these places? During your inspections, do you inspect the infrastructure that has been built?
Yes, we do.
And do you find them adequate?
Some of them have shortcomings, and wherever they have defaults or we note it down and bring it to the attention of the council management.
And what happens when nothing is done?
Yes, the only way to establish whether something has been done about it will be the next or subsequent inspection.
So that's why I'm asking, if you go on these inspections every quarter, you would be able to monitor and know whether it's been done every quarter.
Yeah.
So if you go on the first visit and it's not done, you go on the second visit, it's not done, you go on the third visit, it's not done, because these audit reports come annually, sometimes biannually it seems, and this is an issue that is persistent. So if you've been going and you've been seeing and you realize that it's not been fixed, what do you do?
Yeah, a typical example is Kerewan Area Council. There's a community market that they constructed, and when we visited, we were not happy with the flooring. It was badly done.
Okay.
When we look at it, we think that it's a floor that was constructed years back.
But this is a market that was constructed in 2021, no? Around that time.
I can't remember the years, but I remember we went there last year, 2022. Okay. And the floor was badly paved, so we recommended to redo it at that stage.
So in that circumstance, a market almost newly built, the floor is terrible. Would you go further than just recommending that they pave the floors again? Would you check who the contract was given to, what the contract terms are? Would you check whether the procurement was done right? Would you check any of that? Because if it's only been done a year and it's bad, it's very likely that there's an issue with either the materials that were used or the
mixing or cement.
Yes. So would you go further than just recommending that they fix it? Because they would have to spend council funds to fix it when someone else has already been paid for that job. So would you go further than just telling them to fix it? Do you go into the documents?
Yes, we need to go to the document or try to find out who the contractor is. Because he or she is already paid to do that job, he or she will have to fix it.
So that's what I'm saying. Do you actually do that? Do you actually do that?
Where it happened?
In this Kerewan situation, did you do that?
No, we didn't do that.
And do you
we
not
just asked the council to engage him and let him redo the floor.
Okay, so you have said that you went to visit last year, and I'm assuming you told the council to get the contractor to do it shortly after your visit.
Yeah.
It's now almost 6 months into the new year. Do you know whether it's been done?
No, honestly, I wouldn't know because I haven't been there since then to ascertain whether it's done.
Has your team been there?
Come again?
Has your team been there? Has your inspection team been there?
No, I don't want to guess. I'm not sure whether they have been there or not.
No.
Unless I...
Now, can you tell this commission, can you give us a schedule of the times you have done project visits?
Okay.
Yes. Okay. If it is recorded and what your findings were, if there are any recording, can you kindly provide that to the commission?
Okay.
And yes, and for also the contracts that have been awarded. Do you have copies of those contracts with you?
At our level, no, we don't have.
You don't have, and nothing is submitted to you as an oversight?
No.
But you told the commission that it is a committee that sits and appraises the contract that is put forward to you for you to okay the disbursement of, say, $2 million. So you're telling the commission that you don't retain any document at the ministry for reference purposes?
Yes, that's what I said. I can't remember offhand. I don't want to assume here that it's there and when I get back it's not there.
Okay.
But it should have been. We should keep records of them.
Okay, if you go back, kindly check. If it is available, please avail the commission copies
Okay.
for all the councils.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Answer, proceed.
Thank you, Chairperson. So if you, or when you eventually find out that what you have recommended the council to do was not done, what would you, or what do you do?
Let me just draw this. I just remembered it wasn't, this was a visit with the National Assembly members,
Okay.
not the inspectorate that went there.
Okay, so when you visited with the National Assembly members and you're the Director of Governance and it has come to your knowledge, do you not take it back to your office and have the issue dealt with?
Yes.
So then when you have realized that it's not been done, what do you do?
No, at that stage, we don't even wait to return back to the office. Because during these visits, we are there with the management of the council. So it is there and then that we tell them what needs to be done. That this cannot be left like this, it has to be fixed.
I understand that part. What I want to know is, what is the follow-through? You have told them.
Yeah.
They have not done it. Now what happens?
Yes,
They just left like that?
as I said, I haven't personally been there.
No, I'm
and I
giving
can't
you
remember.
a hypothetical situation
Okay,
where it's
okay.
not been done. We're assuming now that it has not been done.
Okay.
It is possible that it was, but we're assuming it's not been done. What next?
What next is still to engage the council, if need be, to bring the contractor on board, and we engage him collectively.
So it's been almost a year since the visit. You don't know if it's done. When you eventually do visit again, if it's not done, then you will ask them, you will engage the council and ask them to invite the contractor. Meanwhile, the people who are using the market are having to deal with it for that period.
Yeah.
And do you think that this is right?
No, it's not right.
Okay, you were telling us about the 3 different grants: conditional, I believe general grant and equalization grant. Is it? Can you tell us more about the general grant?
The general grant, as the name implies, it is there for all of them. That is for all the 8 councils.
And how much is it? When do they get it, etc.?
No, the period doesn't matter. They could get it in January, February, April, July, August.
It doesn't matter to who, the ministry or the council, because I'm sure they need funds maybe at the beginning of the year.
Yes, but also provided central government, the funds are there.
Okay.
But as soon as it's done, then we request for the funds from government, and they are paid to their respective councils.
And is it a uniform amount for all the councils?
Yes.
Okay, how much is it usually?
As I said, last year 2 million, 2023 2 million.
Now that one, you said that was a conditional grant.
No, it only comes one off. Government hasn't been providing to say, okay, this is your general grant, this is your conditional grant, this is your equalization grant. Government only provides one.
So
And
government
that- and
only
that-
gives 2 million to the councils every year.
Yes.
There's no 25% of their development budget.
No.
Why is that?
Normally, during budget preparation period, we capture it in our budget. We request for their budgets, and we request for their actuals. Based on the actuals, at our level, with the committee, we calculate the 25% and put it in the ministry's budget. It amounts to a lot of money. So the problem is always during budget bilateral with Ministry of Finance. No matter where to be put, they'll always say no. This is as a result of the ceiling that is provided for, determined by, and approved by the Ministry of Finance. They say they'll give us, for example, 7 million. I'm just citing an example. So if we capture the 25% for each council, it will shoot from 7 million, say, to 50 or 49 million. Ministry of Finance will tell us this is not a good area. You have overshoot. You have not only shoot, but you have overshoot your ceiling. But year in, year out, we always capture and always want to capture this 10% for the general grant from councils.
10% what?
For general grant.
Is it 10% or 25%?
No, 25 is the subvention. The general grant shouldn't exceed 10%.
But you just said that you don't actually have a distinction. You just give a one-off amount to each council, which is
yes.
the 2 million.
The ideal situation was, as indicated in the Act, to give as it is there. If you say general grant, $3, here's your general grant. Conditional, $7, here's your conditional. Equalization, to those it matters, $2, here's your equalization. But it doesn't come that way. Government only gives one subvention.
So where these grants are provided for in the Act, and the Act has told you exactly how much it should be, 25% of the development component of the councils, and you go to the Ministry of Finance and they tell you no, do you point out to them that they are aiding you in violating legislation?
Certainly, I agree.
No, I'm saying, do you make them understand that?
Yeah, because we told them this is a legal requirement. It's not me as an individual, it's not us as a ministry who just want sums provided to councils. It is a legal requirement. I didn't put it there. It is we as a government or as a people who put it in there. So let's implement it. So that's why I started by saying, since the Act came into being, for a spell of time, not a single dime was forthcoming from central government to the local councils. So
do you bring this issue before the National Assembly?
Yes.
And what has been their reaction?
I know for 2023, they requested that we give them the figures as per council of this 25%. What does it translate to? So that they could use that to argue the case at the plenary.
And does the National Assembly understand the government's policy about decentralization? Do the other ministries understand? I mean, you're the go-between.
Yeah, maybe some may understand, some may not understand. But of course, we produced the Act that says these grants should be provided by central government to local councils.
Yes. I'm now talking more about the decentralization policy, which is government's policy, which they committed to implement. And part of all these grants and subventions is in order to strengthen the councils so that they can be autonomous at some point. And the whole idea is to remove some of the burden from central government and also to allow the people, the communities, to hold their councillors and their elected officials accountable for their funds, etc. And so I'm asking, is the National Assembly aware of the government's policy on decentralization? Are the ministries aware of the government's policy on decentralization? Because it's not, the grant is not just there for the sake of being there. The policy is not just there for the sake of being there. All of these things that the ministries are supposed to do and the assistance that central government is supposed to give is to strengthen the councils so that we can all meet our decentralization commitments. So do they understand this? Is this something that comes up? Is this something that you try to make them aware of?
Yes.
Really? When was the last time that this issue came up?
I think it's either December or January.
Of 2022?
Yeah, last December, this January.
And what was their reaction?
Of course, they agree with us.
But?
It's a project that government chose. It's a path that government opted to pursue. I don't think they were compelled to pursue the path of decentralization. So if government is committed to adopting and employing and implementing the decentralization that many will argue is the way forward to bringing about development to our doorsteps of our people, then honestly, government should be committed to do the needful for the councils. I remember sometime there was this argument from the center that councils do not have the capacity. But maybe because I'm responsible for them, that's why I need to argue in their favor. But I am always of the view or the conviction that if councils do not have the capacity, absorptive capacity to absorb these funds that are coming from the center, it is your baby. Your child, you cannot abolish or abandon your child. You have to protect, you have to guide that child to grow, to crawl, to walk, and to develop him or herself. So the center has that moral responsibility. If the argument is that councils does not have an absorptive capacity, what is government doing about that? For me, it's not enough only to say councils doesn't have the capacity. What are we doing about the capacity that is lacking? If we are serious as a government, if we are determined to pursue the path of decentralization,
now,
we need to build that capacity.
Yes.
Help them build the capacity.
Sorry,
Yes,
Nancy.
sure.
Mr. Gomez,
Yes.
you have stated in your statement, which is Exhibit LTC/DG001, you have stated that as Director of Governance, you formulate, coordinate the implementation of policies and strategies on decentralization and local governance reform. And you ensure proper utilization of resources, ensure that standards are adhered to by local government authorities, monitor the implementation of the Local Government Act, collaborate with all stakeholders in regulating local governance and decentralization standards. You, as Director of Governance, what is the procedures you have adopted at the level of the ministry to do all of this vis-a-vis with the stakeholders, for each stakeholder to understand their responsibilities towards this process of decentralization?
Yes, the engagement didn't go deep, as I said, because the policy itself is not an approved document. It has, according to the executive, at the time, they have figured out certain issues that they are or we are not comfortable with.
Before you proceed, the policy that we are referring to was a policy that was drafted.
Yes.
During the last administration? Okay, so and this administration, have they done any review of that policy?
No.
With the view of adopting it as a working document?
Yes, the review process is just in the pipeline. We've engaged UNDP for possible funding of the review process, and that will inform hiring the service or services of a consultant to lead the process.
Okay, so
that's
now yes, so now now let's consider your responsibility as you stated them in your statement. Now my question is, what procedures have you adopted in making sure that there is understanding, there is work towards the implementation of what is provided for in the Act and in the regulation, since the policy is not a document that has been adopted, finalized and adopted? So what have you been doing pursuant to your Act and the regulations that have been enacted?
Yes, candidly, nothing much was done in that respect, apart from the few ministries that have embarked or engaged in decentralization. But on a larger scale, that is the entire government machinery, not much was done, because we are looking forward to having this document legally binding, and then we move.
Yes, you have stated you have told this commission that central government did not live up central government did not live up to their expectation in providing the finances. But you, as head of governance, you know that your first port of call is at the parliament, where you will go and argue for these funds to be disbursed, for these funds to be provided for. Because it's the assembly that approves the budget.
Approves the budget, certainly.
So what role did you play when it came to discussing this budget at plenary level, you understand, so that you could get the select committee at the parliament to listen to you and to be able to table the need for them to approve funding that could be in your budget ultimately for this thing to happen? What have you done with respect to that?
Yes, the doing started at the budget bilateral, and wherever, as usual, we disagreed because central government was reluctant to provide. As we capture on behalf of the councils in our budget, the next stage was to engage the select committee that government is not abiding or sticking by the promise, adhering to the promise made in the legal documents to provide these funds, and we need your candid intervention. So
Commissioner,
they took it from there.
Yes, Commissioner Silla has a question.
Mr. Gomez, thank you very much. I don't want to take you back to the 2 million until we have the proper documentation. Then we can have a position. But what I'm trying to put in place is that government have to be giving you subvention based on your budget. Not so. But if you look at it, all the councils, almost all the councils, their accounts are qualified. So if you cannot prepare me, give me a good financial statement, in your view, don't you think that I shouldn't give you money? 1. 2, let's say government is an investment bank and you are institutions working on the investment bank. How could I trust to give you my money when your financial statements, when you cannot provide accurate financial statements? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, you are quite right. I mean, wherever you invest or put in your money, you want positive results back and not negative results. Government, on the other hand, also has a point there, because financial statements is what is going to convince government that the funds that you are giving to us, the public funds that you are providing us, are utilized to the best interest of the people or communities that we serve. If, on the other hand, that is not forthcoming, then it pushes the government to a corner and constantly asking itself or herself, should we continue or should we stop? Yeah, financial statements has been a challenge for councils, but gradually we'll be getting there. And this has always been a bottleneck at the FPAC, where councils appear before the National Assembly. And I'm happy to report that with the introduction or with the rolling out of the IFMIS, that is the Integrated Financial Management Systems, into the councils, some progress is being made. As we assemble here, councils are now in a position to pull out reports as we speak. They are now able to pull out reports from the IFMIS system. Now, when they pull out those reports, of course, we need to check them to ensure that they contain what needs to be contained, they are acceptable before they are sent to the national audit for their audit. And that will help inform the government's position whether to continue providing these subventions to council or otherwise. So we have a setback in that area. As I said, over the years, we have been struggling as councils to provide financial statements. But hopefully this 2023, when they next appear before the FPAC of the National Assembly, it will be a different ball game.
Yes, we have noted the audit reports that have been sent. You have told this commission that you look at the audit reports and pick out the issues. And what we did realize was that so many of the issues were repeated as not being taken care of. So what has been the position of your directorate in making sure that some of those issues that are raised in those audits have been taken, steps are taken to resolve them?
Yes, when issues of that nature arise, of course my powers are limited at some situations. I cannot proceed. That means somebody else will take the decision.
And who is that person, please, that should take the decision?
The head of the institution.
And who is the head of the institution?
The permanent secretary can say, okay, let's go by this, and it will be done.
Thank you. Council? Council, I think this is 5 minutes to 5. I think this is a convenient point to stop.
Okay.
And we are aware that tomorrow is public holiday, so we will reconvene on Monday.
Okay.
So, Mr. Gomez, we will see you Monday at 10 to continue on your evidence.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we can rise.
Oh, sorry.